Reading aloud for you from my novella Goddess, Chapter 55. Pegasus pointed his snout downwards and slipped through clouds, dipped downwards some more, broke free of the clouds, and at first Maddie saw only a vast expanse of darkness. A solitary light beckoned to them, and as they drew closer, Maddie saw it was a tall pole light situated in the middle of a lonely farmyard. They were out in the country, in the middle of nowhere, and there was nothing to see for miles around other than the large barn. As the chariot lowered to the ground, Maddie grew aware of the smells of a farm, and her nostrils flared with the sweetly acrid scent of manure and hay and straw and dust. The chariot glided to a stop. A swirl of dust whirled around them, and for a long moment nobody moved as the dust engulfed them before finally swirling back down to the ground. Mary folded up her wings and hopped off the chariot and stood in the dusty farmyard and looked around her as Lady Venus lifted Maddie up off her shoulders and set her down onto the ground. Victoria folded up her wings and hopped off the chariot and led Pegasus by the reins to a water trough where he drank. Maddie stood with uncertainty and tried to regain her bearings as the statues arranged themselves into a loose circle while keeping her outside of it. This hurt her feelings, and she tried not to mind as she studied them as they faced one another without speaking. They made no move to include her in the circle, and so she stood there, feeling left out and abandoned. Not a good feeling. As her eyes adjusted to the dim light, she noticed a farmhouse to her left. To her right stood a large barn, the one she'd first noticed from the sky, and distantly she noticed a smaller second barn, the silence punctuated by the soft lowing of cows. The barnyard had a lot of rusted out and set aside farm equipment heaped here and there, some of it leaning against the barn, some of it standing in not so tidy piles in the farmyard. A tarp covered a big piece of farm machinery. The statues gazed at one another without speaking, but they were clearly talking to one another in a secret language all their own. The conversation appeared to finish, and Mary broke away from the group and walked up to Maddie. "What's going on?" Maddie asked. "Do you see the sign?" Mary said and pointed. Maddie followed her gaze. Willow Strongfoot, artist in residence, sculptor, painter, Jill of all trades. "This is the place," Mary said. Lady Venus walked up to them. "I only hope we're here in time." "I'm sure we are," Mary said, but Maddie detected an edge of fear in Mary's voice. "Very well then, ladies, we're running out of time. Let's get a move on, shall we?" Victoria said tartly. Mary stepped forward and took Maddie's hand and led her to the barn door. Just short of the door, Mary pushed it open, craned her neck around from one side to the other, then indicated for the others to follow her inside as Maddie stood apart. Lady Venus walked inside and her head brushed up against the highest rafters. Victoria poked her head in through the door and tut-tutted at the roof. I do believe my backside will be scraping up along the roof if I try to come inside. Yes, Lady Venus said, perhaps Victoria and I ought to wait outside. I do believe that's best, Victoria said, and she withdrew her head from the doorway. Once Victoria had cleared the doorway, Lady Venus then ducked her head and scooted out of the barn and went to wait with Victoria in the farmyard. Very well then, Mary said, taking Maddie's hand. Come with me, little one. And Mary held Maddie's hand as they walked into the barn.